James, thanks so much for your time. Good to catch up with you again. We are all anticipating and waiting for some form of headline or news regarding the president's release from a hospital. Apparently, this was supposed to take place sometime today. Can you give us the latest on Trump's state of health? But I suppose more importantly, what this will likely do to market volatility since, of course, his announcement of contracting COVID-19 was made on Friday.
Well, if you study history, thousands of years back, the health and condition of the leader is always a closely guarded secret. It's not just a contemporary thing. If it's Greece or if it's Russia or it's Brazil, this is something that we can't possibly know the truth of. And so it doesn't make much sense to speculate. We know that President Trump is going to get the best health care available, the best treatment available. But I would be cautious about making any decisions based on the news that comes out. We do know that there are election implications from his condition and from his capacity to compete for this job, which is so important to the world. If there is a Democratic president, we know that there will be pressure in financials and industrials and oil and gas, technology, and a potential tax hike. And so there is going to be implications if Trump does not survive this. There's never been a president that has passed during this phase of the election cycle. And so not only are we counting on history, but we're counting on our doctors to keep our commander-in-chief healthy. We are definitely looking at the implications of this. We have not terribly studied Pence's competitiveness against Biden. And so this is an Achilles heel for us as investment managers to determine if it is Pence, where will this election probability stand? We at our shop have not analyzed that. It was something that we certainly did not anticipate. However, the condition that Trump is in will steadily improve based on the health care he's getting until it doesn't. And that's how we're treating it.
And I mean, just looking at what the polls are saying, really factoring in a strong Biden lead. There's several other research that does say that should the Democratic candidate win, he might actually be good for the American economy over the long term, despite the short-term headaches of those higher taxes. But I am interested in the fact that we're less than a month away until you go and vote. I imagine that you will be voting. How are you keeping your clients' money safe in this period of uncertainty?
There are a few tools and tactics that we can take. On the protection side, we can de-risk portfolios by reducing exposure in those areas that are most overvalued. That de-risking involves liquidating some positions in tech and then holding those positions in cash. On the other side of this, we want to buy something low that has the capacity to go up, and that is volatility. We are very aggressively accumulating positions in the short-term VIX futures ETF, UVXY, and then we are capitalizing on an innovation in our country. We have the NASDAQ market, which was the home to amazing businesses like Dell and Microsoft and others that have been extraordinarily successful, Google, Amazon, Facebook. These are all names that have become dominant players. The NASDAQ has innovated a new product called VOLQ, V-O-L-Q, and it is going to serve as a volatility measure for the NASDAQ 100, which is a tremendous benefit because most of the valuation, most of the growth, most of the trajectory of upside in our market has been tech related. And therefore, the most susceptible to losses will be tech as well. So we're going to be able to position protection for our clients and particularly growth for those who want aggressive growth by positioning capital in VOLQ. And so volatility is where we're putting capital now to work. And then as a defensive measure, we also can get volatility exposure and or de-risk by reducing exposure in technology.
James, does that game or that strategy change in the midterm in the event that the stimulus deal is agreed upon? I mean, we're reading reports here that big progress was made at the weekend and it's just, an announcement of way. So a stimulus package is agreed on. Americans start getting financial aid back again before the election, and perhaps voter sentiment changes as a result. Does your strategy change?
There is a two-sided coin or knife, depending on how you want to look at it. When stimulus gets passed, not if, but when we know that all of the government estimations for the impact of this virus and the shutdowns of the economy are catastrophic. And so we will have a stimulus. When that stimulus is passed, it will matriculate into earnings very slowly. We'll see some consumer spending pick up. We might see new home purchases pick up. But in terms of earnings, it's not going to have a meaningful impact. And therefore, it's not going to have a tremendous effect on the stock market, because the bigger picture in the room, the bigger issue is going to be the election. Irrespective of how those protection for consumers works on the stimulus, we still have an uncertainty around the election. And polls are not always truthful. If you followed polls in the previous election, it looked like Mrs. Clinton was going to win the election. Of course, she didn't. She herself was surprised. If you remember the night when she conceded, she didn't even come to the stage. She was surprised. Polls don't tell the truth. We have to really anticipate either scenario. This is what we do here, as we look at the different scenarios, and with a stimulus or without a stimulus, we're going to see risk in the market. We're going to see volatility come up based on that uncertainty. And then the question you didn't ask, but we're particularly interested in, is the vaccine question, right? We can keep providing stimulus and it's only going to be incrementally supplementive to individuals, but we need a vaccine to stop this virus. We believe that when a vaccine is available, it will cause the Fed to resume its normal stance, and we're going to see pressure on markets there. And so this is kind of the phase that we think we're in right here, where everything is focused on the election and earnings and the potential tax implications and policy implications of a different president. So that's what we're focused on here. And in the short term, we think that there's going to be some pressure on markets here, as the rebound from the September correction has been a little stronger than most. And so we're positioned here for some downside here in the short term.